There's definitely deals out there. There's definitely opportunities. And you're going to run into the odd seller who has some sort of a fear at this point in time that there is going to be a drop in the market, right? And they may be willing to come down in price and kind of negotiate more with you.
True.
So there's definitely opportunities out there. You just kind of got to keep your eye out, have a good realtor looking out for you that kind of knows the areas, and just keeping an eye on the market every single day, because even though there are less listings, most of the people in the market, as I mentioned, are a lot more motivated to sell right now or to buy. So
hold up.
Okay, we're live. Alex, how are you, man?
Good, Paul. How about yourself?
Good. I'm really stoked to have this conversation. I mean, so we connected like quite recently, and it's funny. We've kind of been noticing the same things in the market, especially this is the COVID time, right? So there's a lot of people that are waiting things out, and I get it. There's a lot of uncertainty, but like we've seen some really interesting things in the market that are counterintuitive. And there's people that have been waiting things out, but they're also being proactive by doing a few select things, especially when they're looking at property. So really stoked to dive into that. Let's get into it. I mean, look, biggest thing that I'm hearing from people is, well, are other people still buying? Are people still selling? Like, what are your thoughts on just the market are people still buying and selling? And are the prices starting to go down? Is it a time to get a deal? Like, what do you think?
People are definitely still buying and selling. I myself was actually showing properties this morning.
Oh, wow.
Now, there aren't as many buyers and sellers out there at this point in time. Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the numbers right now, yes, listings are down by 60% and sales down by 30%, but the people that are out there and active and looking are very serious. We've kind of just removed the looky-loos, per se, that aren't serious about buying.
Sure.
They're just kind of out there in the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but prices are actually holding very steady at this point in time. Looking back at March, we've actually seen slight increases both month over month and year over year across all property types through the Fraser Valley. The only region specifically that we've seen a minor decrease is kind of the South Surrey White Rock area. But aside from that, Langley, Cloverdale, Surrey have all seen small increases in price, and they were kind of been trending upwards since January. So moving into April, this is where things may get a little bit interesting,
right?
Because people that have previously sold their homes maybe in February or early March now are needing to get into homes, right?
Right.
So that's your first category of people who need to find a home right now. They've already sold, they're on a deadline, and they're needing to get into a new home.
Sure.
However, we also have people in more distressed situations, per se. For instance, it could be a family and the husband just has tragically passed away, didn't have life insurance, and now the wife has to take her kids. Very unfortunate situation, but they don't have the savings, and now their savings is kind of pooled in their house, right? So that's one situation. Another one could be an elderly couple, they're retired. A lot of their money was in the stock market, that's come down.
Sure.
Now they need to downsize just to pull out some of that equity, right?
Right.
And these are just some of the more extreme cases.
Sure. But they're happening more often than before because COVID and the job loss. And I mean, are you starting to sense that? Are you hearing stories that it's happening?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And you're running into other situations. There could be kind of frontline workers, RCMP officers who are being repositioned because they're repositioned every so often. And I've had a few cases like that, not personally, but people within my office that have had to move those people. And they may not be directly affected by the virus itself, but they're being moved just based on their job and being relocated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have other people who just have a lot of money, have a lot of capital, and they're looking for investment opportunities. And because money is so cheap, lending is so cheap at this point in time, they're looking for these opportunities, right? It's more so the families who may have had job loss or significantly reduced incomes that don't necessarily have these opportunities anymore at this point in time.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so I guess if I'm a buyer, you're saying that, I mean, because of these unfortunate circumstances, I mean, there's going to be properties to look at. And do you think some of those may be below asking because of the time crunch, or do you think sellers are holding strong and and waiting for it to rebound? Like how good of a window is it really to actually look at some properties now? Because it seems like there might be some possibility there, some deals.
Yeah, there's definitely deals out there. There's definitely opportunities. And you're going to run into the odd seller who has some sort of a fear at this point in time that there is going to be a drop in the market, right? And they may be willing to come down in price and kind of negotiate more with you.
True.
So there's definitely opportunities out there. You just kind of got to keep your eye out, have a good realtor looking out for you that kind of knows the areas and is keeping an eye on the market every single day. Because even though there are less listings, most of the people in the market, as I mentioned, are a lot more motivated to sell right now or to buy. So
totally. And why don't you talk about, I mean, obviously the areas that you focus on, maybe some more hyper local trends that you've seen?
To be honest, I focus mainly in the Cloverdale Langley area, and prices have been holding fairly steady through this point in time. But again, as I mentioned, as we're getting further into April, situations are changing. People have been at home for a longer period of time, and the people that have previously sold are now getting into those new homes. There's significantly less inventory on the market and less buyers out there. So there's a lot less competition, which kind of makes things interesting, mixes it up, and is going to present those opportunities to buyers in the market. So I think this is a good time, definitely for buyers to be out there looking, obviously taking all the precautions, but there's so much we have set up right now with virtual tours, videos, all these things that you can be previewing listings from home and get a really good idea of them.
Which is arguably something that should have been there in the first place, or it was, but now people are more forced to use it, which I think is probably a time saver for both parties. Which I think is maybe definitely some more good happening within the pandemic. And I guess like you mentioned cheap financing, right? And on the mortgage side here, like it was record lows at the beginning of March, but now it's been going up a little bit. It's you look at the point of this filming, 2.5 on the fixed, 2.2 on the variable. So variable still lower, of course. Do you find that people are taking advantage of this? Like, are people that you talk to, have they gotten pre-approved? Do they know what they can afford? Have they locked in their rate for 120 days by getting pre-approved? What do you think that home buyers could be doing to be more prepared to jump on that potential housing deal with financing, anything else related to like the buying process?
So we are seeing some people take advantage of that. However, there's others who unfortunately aren't as proactive. But that's something I would highly recommend, is taking advantage of these rates right now. And as you know, when you lock in for a rate, that gives you typically 90 to 120 days.
Yep.
And you're going to be guaranteed that rate. If rates go up, you're going to keep that rate. And if rates go down, you're going to get the new lower rate. So you really can't lose in this situation. So planning ahead, in my opinion, is the most important thing. And so many people fail to do that. Mm-hmm. And as a realtor myself, I don't really want to be taking someone out that hasn't been pre-approved, talking on the approval section, right?
Yeah.
Number one, because I'm not sure if they can actually afford what we're looking at, even if they think they may be able to. And number two, if I take them into a property, they fall in love with it, and then all of a sudden they can't get financing for it, it's a heartbreaker for them, right? Yeah. So you're really just losing on both ends. We're wasting each other's time. Whereas we go ahead, get this done, and in the long run, even if we don't purchase right away, even if it's 3 months down the line, we're still guaranteed the best rate. So,
100%. You're preaching the choir. Love it. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And let's talk about, like, you've been speaking about April and, with COVID, where things are going. What about after COVID? Let's say, we're of course in BC and the curve's being flattened, thank God. And, even countries around the world are starting to ease some restrictions. So people say that the actual effects of COVID will last for a long time. Some of them, of course, permanent. We talked about technology and the role that it's playing. But like, what aspects of the real estate process do you think will be different after COVID, right? And hopefully for the better, as far as, again, the buying process, technology being used, just anything that you think is useful to start to get used to.
Yeah, I think definitely technology is going to be playing a bigger role. Specifically video. I think video is going to play a huge role in the real estate industry. It already kind of started to, but after this, I think people are going to see the value in it, as well as virtual tours. We already sort of have some sort of virtual tours, but there's different types of technology like Matterport, which kind of gives you the entire house. You can walk through, jump from floor to floor, and basically take yourself through the entire property. as well as we're getting some even like virtual reality tours as well, where you can put on the headset, kind of look around and actually have the realtor potentially in that, taking you through the house, guiding you through each room, and you can pause it and play it and continue on, as well as potentially have them sitting in a chat room maybe and answering any questions that you may have. So it's really just doing more screening before you actually get into the property, because too many times I'm showing a property and they come in and it's a 2-bedroom townhouse, walk through it, and they're like, oh, well, you know what, this isn't going to work because there's not 3 bedrooms. And it's like, how simple was it to look at the listing prior to, realize that there's not enough bedrooms? Now you've wasted your own time and my time. And that's, you know, more than likely the other realtor's fault, but it could have been the family or the individual who's walking through the property as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, there's more scrutiny. I think that's going to be beneficial for everyone down the road. And yeah, just more on the technology angle. And just to kind of wrap up with, the call to action is there's people that have been sitting on the sidelines for a while now because they want to see where things go. You're alluding to the fact that, hey, get pre-approved and consider all the things that are happening in consumer behavior because of the pandemic. As you said, I think your point around the frontline workers relocating, didn't think about that before, right? Of course, the tragic cases on the downsiders based off of, someone passing away and there not being insurance. And then, just people moving around. Those are all really interesting facts. So let's just summarize. What should people be doing as a checklist right now to be best poised to enter the market? Just to summarize that part. And then, with things going more and more digital, do you think that realtors are less useful, or are they more useful than before? Let's talk about, again, just the summary of what's the checklist of what someone should do. And I'm sure contacting you is part of that. And why do you think realtors are probably more useful than ever, given the unique things that you might be able to do that maybe people don't realize?
Yeah. Well, I think number one is you got to reach out to a lender just to figure out, or a mortgage broker just to figure out what you are able to, get approved for. That's the number one before you do anything else. And a lot of people think the first step is to come talk to a realtor, but it's actually to go speak with a mortgage broker.
Right.
To figure out what those numbers are going to look like. And from there, you're able to start building your plan. So then you would want to reach out to a realtor and kind of talk your way through the process. What are your needs? What are your wants? Figure those things out and start to build a game plan. Even if you're 1 month, 2 months, 6 months out, the sooner that you can start planning, the better. Because we can be keeping an eye out there for any sort of properties that may fit those criteria. And if a wicked deal comes onto the market, but you're not quite ready, you're not going to have the opportunity to place an offer on that place. And that could have been your dream home.
Right.
I just don't think you can stress enough being prepared early on, because that's going to prevent you from missing out on any opportunities in the future.
For sure.
And then, from there, I guess, as you had mentioned, why are realtors more important than ever?
Yeah.
I think because there is so much technology going around, right? And we really need to step up. We need to raise our standard at this point in time. So finding a good realtor is more important than ever. Someone with, local market expertise that understands and utilizes technology themselves, uses it as a tool, but not as a be-all, end-all.
Yeah.
And can't take out the personal factor in all of this, right? Like, people have emotions that you need to control and manage, and a robot or a computer can't do that at this point in time, right?
And negotiation is a huge part too. Like, you guys are doing negotiation on their behalf, right? So wouldn't that be something that, I don't see a robot doing a good job of that, right? Maybe you have exclusive listings or things that can't be found online, right?
100%. The negotiation piece is huge, as you mentioned, and being able to, especially if we are going to go present an offer in person, this is what so many realtors don't do, but whenever we know we're in a multiple offer situation, we always go and do this, because we can go and actually present a story and, sometimes tug at the heartstrings of the seller, and a lot of times that goes a long way.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, as well as we're right there, and we're able to kind of get a better idea of, what that seller is looking for, so we can put those sorts of clauses in our contract or figure out what those dates are, where if you're just sending it electronically, as great as that is during, with certain situations, in a multiple offer situation, it's going to give us the upper hand every single time. So, and then touching on the piece, and then before I get there, actually, is just some of these sites, it's more so prevalent in the States. You can plug in your property your address, and it'll spit out a number, right? It'll give you an evaluation, but this is just based on some algorithm, and you can go to 5 different sites and it's going to give you 5 different numbers.
Right.
Someone that actually understands what the renovations you've put into it, property size, all these different things to take into account that a computer can't necessarily do is going to give you a more accurate price. And I've heard stories where, those have spit out numbers that are $100,000 under what its actual market value is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's so important to actually have a human being,
sure,
specifically, a realtor with expertise come into your house that knows the area well, that understands your property and can give you a better price. As well as the marketing piece with that, right?
Yeah, sure.
But kind of as you were touching on before, why, I guess that kind of summarizes why realtors are more important than ever. I think you had another question as well, though, or?
No, you got it. Well, that and also just the buying process. So maybe you want to end off like a war story, like what, you and I obviously both work with people in like their late 20s, early 30s, right? People that recently married, just got the job promotion, like, it's time to invest in a property, maybe for themselves or just for investment purposes. Like, do you have any kind of like war stories of like a, without naming any names, a scenario recently where, or scenarios where people just didn't get things to work out the way they wanted to because they overlooked something?
Yeah, I have one that happened pretty recently, and this was more on the lending side, actually.
Okay, so, interesting. Yeah.
Had been suggesting that they go and speak with a mortgage broker, but they were just sold on going to their bank, right?
Sure.
We got through the entire process. They were told they were going to be approved for what the amount was, and then basically we closed on the sale.
Wow.
And then we were removing subjects.
Yeah. And
during that process, there was just a lot of confusion with the bank, and whoever had been working with my clients, they were uneducated. They made a lot of mistakes, and they were asking for. Sorry?
Like the bank teller who's probably selling 10 other products. I mean, it's hard to go deep with that, right?
Exactly. And he's promising them things and then telling them they're not going to get approved afterwards. And we just weren't in a good situation. Luckily, we kind of managed to get it through at the very end of the day. But I just kind of showed him like how much stress we could have saved. Like this guy's parents were going to pull equity out of their own home in order to kind of help them out, right? It was just a nightmare of a situation. But
right. Was it like not enough down payment, or they just weren't approved for as much as they think they were, or was some income not really qualified, credit score issue?
It was a self-employed individual with a new business. He hadn't been in business for 2 years. So
right.
I think obviously you guys have a lot more options when it comes to those sorts of individuals. And yes, he had been promised something by the bank. They were very slow on getting back. And until he pushed to finally get an answer.
Wow.
It was just a very difficult and stressful process. Like we were only a few days from subject removal before we got it done. So
got it.
And another one, actually, a little while ago, was a client who had moved out of town, and obviously they had used a realtor out of town and bought into a new property. It ended up being kind of like a lakeside property.
Yeah.
And after the purchase of the property, only then did they find out they were only able to live there for 6 months of the year.
Okay.
So that realtor had actually not done the due diligence and kind of let them know, what the deal was with that property. So they ended up sorting it out afterwards. I'm not exactly sure how, but I think that's why it's important in knowing and trusting whoever you're utilizing on both, the mortgage and the real estate side. Yeah,
man. Well said. Amen to that. Well, that was an awesome rapid fire session. Alex, thanks so much for the insights. And hopefully people take these notes to be better prepared, not just during the crisis, but preparing for the rebound.
No, definitely. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully people will find some value in what we were talking about today.
100%, man. Take care. Be healthy.
Awesome. You too, Paul.
Okay. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.